Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to take a deep dive into emotional numbness.
Okay.
It's something that you specifically requested, and judging by the notes you sent, it seems like you've been doing a lot of thinking about this lately.
I have, yeah.
So it's definitely something that a lot of people experience, but
Right.
we don't always talk about it openly, do we?
It's true.
Yeah.
And,
Emotional numbness is often misunderstood,
okay.
even though it's a natural human response, much like physical numbness.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It's like when you sit on your foot for too long
Right.
and it goes numb, that's a way for your body to protect itself from pain.
Exactly.
Right.
And emotional numbness works in a similar way.
Okay.
When we're overwhelmed by intense emotions,
Yeah.
our brains can temporarily shut down those feelings as a way to cope. It's like our internal circuit breaker flipping to prevent a total overload.
So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But like with a numb foot,
Right.
it also means you're missing out on sensation, right?
Exactly.
So in the case of emotional numbness,
Yeah.
you're not feeling the pain,
Right.
but you're also not experiencing the full range of joy, excitement, or connection.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is that this protective mechanism can have deep roots
Okay.
in our biology and psychology.
You're mentioning deep roots reminds me of something from they outlined.
Okay.
It mentioned that emotional numbness can be caused by an overactive stress response.
Yeah.
You know, that fight, flight, or freeze instinct we all have.
Right.
It's hard to imagine those primal instincts being linked to something as complex as emotional numbness.
It's a fascinating link, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine you're constantly facing stressful situations.
Right.
That fight or flight response is constantly triggered,
Okay.
flooding your body with hormones like cortisol.
Right.
Eventually, your system can become exhausted, and one way it copes is by essentially going numb. Wow, it's like our emotional battery just drains completely.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And on top of the stress response, there's a whole world of brain chemistry at play.
Right.
For example, dopamine,
Okay.
the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward,
Yeah.
can also contribute to emotional numbness when it's out of whack.
You know, I've always thought of dopamine as the feel-good chemical.
Right.
How could that possibly be linked to feeling numb?
It all comes down to balance.
Okay.
When we experience something pleasurable,
Right.
our brains release dopamine,
Yeah.
giving us that rush of good feeling.
Okay.
But if we're constantly chasing those dopamine highs, our brains can actually become less sensitive to it over time.
So it's like we build up a tolerance to dopamine.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as a result,
Yeah.
we might start feeling emotionally flat.
Okay.
Like nothing really excites us or brings us joy. It's like our emotional landscape has become a bit
I see.
desaturated.
This is all starting to make a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Knowing all this.
Uh-huh.
How can someone even tell if they're experiencing emotional numbness?
Right.
What are some of the signs to look out for?
Well, it can be tricky
Okay.
because numbness by its very nature is subtle. But the outline you provided highlights a few key indicators.
Okay.
One is difficulty identifying your feelings.
Right.
It's like, you know something is off,
Yeah.
but you can't quite put your finger on what you're feeling.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself feel generally blah. But if someone asks me, what's wrong?
Right.
I draw a blank.
That's a classic sign.
Okay.
Another indicator is a loss of interest in things you once enjoyed.
Right.
Maybe you used to love painting,
Okay.
going for hikes, or spending time with friends.
Yeah.
But now those activities just don't hold the same appeal.
And you're not just feeling lazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're going through the motions,
Right.
but the emotional spark is gone. And speaking of disconnect,
Okay.
another common sign is feeling emotionally detached from the people around you.
Right.
You might find yourself withdrawing from social interactions
Okay.
or struggling to truly connect on an emotional level,
Yeah.
even with loved ones.
So if any of these signs are resonating with you, dear listener, know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And thankfully, your outline doesn't just stop at outlining the problem.
Right.
It actually lays out some concrete steps to start reconnecting with your emotions.
Right.
What I love is that it emphasizes starting small
Yeah.
and being kind to yourself throughout the process.
Absolutely.
It's not about forcing those emotions to come rushing back,
Right.
but rather about gently inviting them back into your life.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's like tending to a delicate garden. You wouldn't rip out the weeds or force the flowers to bloom overnight. You'd nurture the soil, provide the right conditions, and allow nature to take its course.
I love that analogy. So where do we begin with this emotional gardening? The first tip in the outline seems surprisingly simple.
Okay.
Name your emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, how can something so basic actually be helpful?
You'd be surprised how powerful it can be.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
When you're feeling physically numb, one of the first things a doctor might ask is, can you feel this?
Right.
They're trying to map out the areas of numbness,
Okay.
understand the extent of the problem.
Right.
Naming your emotions does something similar. It helps you become aware of what you're experiencing,
Okay.
even if it's just a vague sense of unease or discontent.
So just acknowledging
Exactly.
I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling anxious can actually start to chip away at that numbness.
Exactly.
Okay.
It brings those feelings into your conscious awareness, which is the first step towards processing and ultimately moving through them.
Right.
And a simple way to practice this is through journaling. Journaling, the good old-fashioned pen and paper kind of.
It can be as simple as that.
Okay.
The outline suggests using prompts like, what did I feel today?
Okay.
Or what made me feel this way?
Right.
It might seem basic, but those questions can be incredibly powerful in helping you reconnect with your emotional landscape.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Especially if you're feeling really disconnected from your emotions. It's like you're giving yourself permission to feel.
Exactly, and to explore those feelings without judgment.
And sometimes simply expressing those emotions, even on paper, can start to loosen the grip of numbness.
Absolutely.
But it's not just about putting words to those feelings. It's also about reawakening your senses.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this sensory approach.
Well, the outline suggests engaging your senses through activities like listening to music, cooking a delicious meal,
or spending time in nature.
It sounds almost too simple.
Right.
How can something like listening to music actually help with emotional numbness?
Our senses are powerful pathways to our emotions.
Okay.
When we engage our senses fully, we're essentially bypassing that intellectual barrier that numbness can create.
Right.
And tapping into a more primal level of experience.
It's like we're creating a back door to our emotions through our senses.
Precisely. It's about finding those experiences that make you feel truly alive.
Yeah.
Whether it's the vibrant colors of a sunset, the soothing sound of rain, or the taste of your favorite comfort food.
You know, I definitely noticed that when I'm feeling emotionally drained, spending time in nature really helps me feel more grounded.
That's a perfect example.
And connected to myself.
And the beauty of this approach is that it can be adapted to your individual preferences and what resonates with you.
Okay.
The key is to pay close attention to how you feel during those sensory experiences. And see if you can start to make connections between those sensations and your emotions.
It's like we're retraining ourselves to recognize and acknowledge those subtle emotional cues that we might have been tuning out.
Exactly.
Okay.
And another powerful tool for tuning in to those subtle shifts is mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
That's a popular buzzword these days.
It is.
What does it actually mean in this context?
In the context of emotional numbness, mindfulness is about bringing your attention to the present moment without judgment.
Right.
Practices like body scans, where you focus on the sensations in your body, or simply paying attention to your breath, can help you become more aware of the subtle ebb and flow of your emotions.
The outline actually gives a great example. Paying attention to physical sensations and seeing if you can connect them to an emotion. Like if you notice your shoulders are tense, maybe that's connected to feeling stressed.
Exactly. It's about making those mind-body connections. And often when we start paying attention, we realize that our bodies are constantly sending us emotional signals. But we've become so accustomed to tuning them out that we don't even notice them anymore.
It's like our bodies are trying to communicate with us, that we put them on mute.
That's a great way to put it. And mindfulness is about turning the volume back up and learning to listen to those subtle whispers of emotion.
This has already been incredibly insightful. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this topic, but I want to make sure our listener has time to digest all this information. So let's take a pause here and come back to explore the actionable takeaways from this deep dive and those final thoughts you mentioned.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to delving deeper into those practical strategies and leaving our listener with some food for thought. Welcome back. Before our pause, we talked a lot about how emotional numbness works, but now I'm ready to dive into the outline suggestions for actually dealing with it.
Me too. I especially liked how the outline presented these as homework for our listener,
Yeah.
almost like we're equipping them with a personalized toolkit for navigating emotional numbness.
I agree. That framing really resonated with me. And the first tool in this toolkit is all about engaging the senses. The outline suggests choosing one sensory activity this week, and this doesn't have to be anything complicated.
Yeah, it could be as simple as savoring a cup of tea, noticing the different flavors and aromas,
Right.
or really listening to the lyrics of a song that moves you.
Exactly. Or taking a walk in nature, paying close attention to the colors of the leaves, the feel of the breeze on your skin, the sounds of the birds singing. The key is to be fully present in that moment, engaging all your senses.
It's like we're retraining our brains to notice and appreciate those subtle, often overlooked details that make up our emotional world.
Precisely. And as you engage in this sensory exploration, pay attention to how you feel. Do certain sensations evoke particular emotions? Maybe the scent of freshly cut grass brings back a wave of nostalgia, or the sound of laughter triggers a feeling of joy.
Those moments of connection, however fleeting, can be incredibly powerful in breaking through that emotional fog.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the second piece of homework in the outline reflection. It encourages you to take some time to write down one thing that made you feel alive this week.
I love that. It's like creating a highlight reel of positive emotions, even if they're small moments, to remind ourselves that we are capable of feeling deeply.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything dramatic. Maybe it was a moment of connection with a loved one, a sense of accomplishment after finishing a task, or simply appreciating the beauty of a sunrise.
These small moments of joy are often the antidote to that feeling of numbness.
And by writing them down, you're not only acknowledging them, you're also creating a tangible record of those positive emotions, a reminder that you can refer back to when you're feeling disconnected.
It's like we're building a resilience bank, storing up these positive experiences to draw on when we need them.
That's a great way to put it. And here's the thing. These seemingly simple exercises, engaging your senses, reflecting on moments of joy, they're not just about feeling good in the moment. They're about cultivating a deeper awareness of your emotional landscape, which is essential for breaking free from the grip of numbness.
It's like we're laying the foundation for a more fulfilling and emotionally vibrant life.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic happens. When you start to reconnect with your emotions, you open yourself up to a whole world of possibilities. You might find that your relationships deepen, your creativity flourishes, and you feel more aligned with your true self.
It's like a ripple effect touching every aspect of your life.
Precisely. But the journey isn't always easy. There will be times when you feel yourself slipping back into old patterns of numbness, and that's okay. It's all part of the process.
It's like learning any new skill. There will be setbacks and challenges along the way.
Exactly. The key is to be patient with yourself, to keep practicing, and to remember that even small steps forward are still progress. And this brings us to the final thought-provoking question from the outline. How might reconnecting with your emotions impact your relationships and overall well-being?
I love that question. It really invites us to think about the bigger picture, the ripple effects of emotional awareness.
Because when you're in touch with your own emotions, you become more attuned to the emotions of others. You develop greater empathy and compassion, which strengthens your connections with the people around you.
It's like learning a new language, the language of emotions. And once you understand that language, you can communicate more effectively and build deeper, more meaningful relationships.
And it's not just about your relationships with others. Reconnecting with your emotions also has a profound impact on your relationship with yourself.
How so?
Well, when you understand and acknowledge your own emotions, you can start making choices that are aligned with your true self. You become better at setting boundaries, expressing your needs, and pursuing activities that bring you joy.
It's like you're finally taking the driver's seat in your own life, making conscious decisions based on what feels right for you.
Exactly. And that sense of agency can be incredibly empowering. It allows you to create a life that feels authentic and fulfilling, a life that's rich with emotion, connection, and purpose.
You know, listening to you talk about this, it strikes me that reconnecting with your emotions is really an act of self-care, even self-love.
I couldn't agree more. It's about honoring your own emotional experience, acknowledging your feelings as valid and important, and giving yourself permission to feel the full spectrum of human emotions. And here's the beautiful thing. When you start to embrace your own emotions, you create space for others to do the same. It's like a ripple effect of authenticity, spreading outward from you to the people around you.
I love that image. Okay, I think it's time for us to bring this deep dive to a close. But before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to leave our listener with?
Just a final reminder that reconnecting with your emotions is a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, moments of clarity, and moments of confusion. But the most important thing is to keep moving forward, one step at a time, with kindness and compassion for yourself.
It feels like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive, from the science of emotional numbness to practical strategies for reconnecting with our feelings. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. And while those practical tools are invaluable, I think there's one more layer we need to peel back before we wrap up.
Ooh, I'm always up for uncovering hidden layers. What's this final gem of wisdom?
It's about recognizing that reconnecting with our emotions isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process, a commitment to staying present with our emotional experience, even when it's uncomfortable.
You're right. It's like any worthwhile endeavor, building a new skill, nurturing a relationship, even tending a garden. It requires patience, consistency, and a willingness to show up even when we don't feel like it.
Exactly. And as we become more emotionally attuned, we might start noticing things we hadn't before. Maybe certain relationships feel draining, or certain activities no longer spark joy. These can be valuable insights, but they can also be unsettling.
It's true. It's like our emotional compass is recalibrating. And sometimes that means adjusting our course, even if it takes us in unexpected directions.
Precisely. And this can be a challenging but ultimately liberating process. It's about learning to listen to those subtle whispers of intuition and having the courage to make choices that align with our authentic selves, even if it means stepping outside of our comfort zones.
So reconnecting with our emotions isn't just about feeling good. It's about gaining clarity, setting boundaries, and ultimately living a life that feels true to who we are.
Beautifully said. It's about recognizing that our emotions, even the messy, uncomfortable ones, are not our enemies. They're valuable sources of information guiding us towards a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on emotional numbness and the power of reconnecting with my feelings.
It's been my pleasure exploring this topic with you. And remember, dear listener, you are not alone on this journey. Embrace the full spectrum of your emotions, the light and the shadow, for it is in those depths that you will discover your true strength and resilience.
What a beautiful way to wrap things up. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into emotional numbness. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel empowered to continue exploring this important topic. Until next time, keep diving deep